Okay. Can you hear me? More Islam. Just go ahead. Let me know in the chat. Okay. Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is June 20th, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar, 1441 on the ancient sun calendar, and 2021 on the Greco-Roman calendar. First, I want to say happy Father's Day to all of the sovereign, original, indigenous, ancient, natural, divine brothers, the nobles, the emperors, who have contributed so much to all that the matriarchs are doing, and vice versa, Islam. We love you, and that will never change. It will never, ever, ever change. You will always be the sun to us, that bright light that we need in time. So I wanted to first, let's talk a little bit about, hopefully all of you had an opportunity to look at the last video that we did on Thursday, where we discussed being stopped by policy enforcers and all that went on with a recent stop here at our territory at West. And I wanted to continue in that vein of information. And I would love for us to have an open discussion about it, because it's so important to all that we're doing. Being stopped by policy enforcers, and we were just saying this prior to the recording starting, that for some, that is their worst nightmare. For some Moors, and for some, and for most of the sleeping Moors, that's their worst nightmare. And we want to shed some more light onto that issue, so that we're feeling a little more comfortable about demonstrating our sovereign status. Now, we're not saying get comfortable with foreign colonizers. We're not saying that. We're saying getting comfortable in being ourselves when those things happen, and never going back to the citizen status. So let's take a look. In fact, here, let me go ahead and start the discussion with what we normally do. All rise and stand. This is a sovereign, living ancient, Article 3, Moorish American, Al-Moroccan, Consular Court Action. I am Sovereign Living Justice, Pauline Denise Ritchie, in capitis diminutio nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. We are the original indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural divine, de jure, Moorish National Republic federal government, among the other governments who are here on the call. We want to give honor to the other governments who are present with us. We hereby exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. So, with regard to policy enforcers, etc., we want to talk about that. What should you do if you are stopped by a policy enforcer? If you have some wisdom that you want to add or that you want to discuss with regard to being stopped by policy enforcers, give us about 60 seconds worth of information about being stopped by policy enforcers. You all hear me talk all the time. I think it's good that we hear each other, and I love that we're continuing our dialogue together. What should you do, or what would you do, or what has happened in the past and what did you do when stopped by policy enforcers? What light or wisdom can you shed on that? Islam, Empress.
This Portia Khalid El-Bay calling from Detroit, Michigan, territory. I got stopped. Me and my daughter got stopped. I'll say maybe a month ago, and it seemed like it was supposed to happen. You know, what the policy enforcer did during the stop, because we had moorishe plates on the car, and I had the flag and everything. And one of the policy enforcers actually told me that he appreciated what I was doing. You know, and he never said what it was exactly what he appreciated, but I did give them the insurance, the moorishe insurance document, and they went and looked everything up. But they came back with a whole lot of clues. Like, they told me that the car was still under a plate that was expired, and my daughter was driving at the time, so they was able to tell us that she still had, you know, an insurance, a driver's license. And so that just clued me in to get rid of my plates, my state plates. That's what I got out of it. Because the other one of them said that even though you have this on your car, the car still could be impounded. And so that made me think about the plate that's connected to the car, how they were still able to bring the car. That was the lesson I learned. So I sent my plates back, I sent my titles back, and the expired driver's license, all of that, surrendered it back to the state. And that was my lesson from my last stop.
Yeah.
I yield.
Islam. You know what, Empress? I had a similar experience when I first woke up, the very first time I was stopped. I had moorishe plates on this was in 2017. I had moorishe plates on my conveyance, which I still do, on my Mercedes. It's an old one. It's like 20-something years old. Moorishe plates on it. And at this time, we didn't know about termination of corporate contracts, but he gave some clues too when he stopped me. He couldn't find. He looked around he walked all the way around the conveyance. Couldn't find anything that was corporate on there. And the one thing he did do was write down. He said, this is what he said, and I remember telling the Morris about this. He said, so whenever we see cars like this, we have to write down the VIN number, and we have to go back and look up to see if there's anything we can find on these cars. He said, and so I can't give you a ticket right now, but I may mail you one in the mail. And I was only 2 or 3 months old at the time from waking up.
Mm-hmm.
I just recently made 4 years that I've been awake, which I'm so excited about. But anyway, he was giving hints then and let me tell you what they found back then. In 2017, they went all the way back, like 7 years. And they found one insurance policy. Now, the insurance policy had lapsed, and no one had renewed it.
Mm-hmm.
No one had renewed that. And they still used that one contract to try and issue a ticket to a court.
Okay.
You see?
Wow.
And, of course, we rebutted it with some affidavits because 2 or 3 months earlier we woke up and heard that we were, that we were supposed to rebut everything they say, which is true. So that's what we did. And to this day, we've never paid not one dime in any type of form of anything about no court. And that's not even the last time that they pulled us over in 2017 and tried to get us to accept a black name. And we still haven't paid not one dime, not one, and ain't gonna pay it. Never, because that's not us. That's like me going down the street to my neighbor and saying, you know what, if you have any bills, let me get some fiat together and pay them for you. Nope, we don't do it. So, yeah, Empress, same thing. They went all the way back, way back. The conveyance had been already, an exchange had taken place where I got the conveyance from my consort. It was already, there was no fiat being exchanged in terms of car notes or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And so it was there was no fiat going back and forth. So, but I told my consort, even at the time, that, because this was in February before I woke up, that he and I made the exchange. We finalized everything. And with each other, And once that was done, I had not put any insurance or anything on it. And then March, April, May, around May, June time frame, I woke up. And then I said, I'm not putting anything on it ever. Mm-hmm. And to this day, So that's what they're looking for. And that was another reason why the ancestors were trying to show us, Empress, that termination of all corporate contracts, and then notify. Notify those ones that are claiming that there's some contract and lien them. And when you lien the insurance companies and all of that, whoever it is that they're claiming has a contract of some kind, then notify them that they've been liened and notify the policy enforcer so that the policy enforcers know that there's no contract on there. And then some of the boards have been covering up the VIN number so that it can't be seen or taking that little VIN tag off of their conveyance. And then on the inside of the door, well, here's the thing about the VIN number. When you take it off, replace it with a red one with all lowercase letters of your own making.
Oh, okay.
And also on the inside of the door, they usually have the VIN information on the inside of the door, or maybe, wherever they have it, take it off, scratch it out, and put in red and all lowercase letters. Everything that they had on there, you take it and put it in red and all lowercase letters and put it back on there. Because, we always replace the fraud with the truth.
Okay.
So, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So then, with regard to being stopped by policy enforcers, are any other Moors want to give their experience with that? You can just star 6 if you want to. Islam, Empress.
Empress Aisha L. I have a question. I just got my tags and put them on the car. I heard some of the Moors say that if you didn't have your car paid for, if you were still paying on it or leasing a vehicle, you shouldn't put the Moorish tag on it. Does that stand affirmed?
You will have to do the study on whether that stands affirmed for you. But here is what I have to say about that from my perspective. Okay, now again, everyone do your own study on this. If you got the conveyance from Caesar using Caesar's contract and you want to be yourself, then most Moors don't have, there's no option. They have to terminate all corporate contracts, because they don't have the fiat anyway. And remember now, fiat is fraud. So we weren't supposed to be using that stuff in the first place.
Right.
But you will have to determine how to do that for you, because some Moors can terminate everything and they're prepared to stand on that, even if it means that they, some Moors have gone to jail for that. Not for that, because that's not really the issue. See, the hybrids already know that that's fraud. It's, are we trying to be someone we're not in order to gain something that's already ours? So if you went into it and you were asleep when you went into it, then it would be my suggestion, and my suggestions are take it, do the study, and then you decide. If you were asleep when you went into it, then do the study and then do the termination. Switch everything over. Because what do the Moors do who have lost their jobs and things like that, where they were able to transfer fiat back and forth? What do? They have to do the demonstration. Do it, or give Caesar back his contract. And if the contract and the property are still attached to one another, because that's a big deal too. That's really the deal. It's first of all, who are they talking to when they say something is owed? That's number one.
Actually, they're talking to my non-beguer.
They are talking to your non-beguer, but did you consent to be that when you first got the conveyance? See, and you don't have to answer that, Empress. I'm just saying. I'm just talking in general for the Moors to just think about, some things to think about. Okay. Now, you know what I'm saying? These days, we know better, and when we know better, we must do better, or we have to pay the price.
Yes, ma'am.
But if you were asleep when you got it, and you can't, and the fiat has stopped, then you have to do the demonstration. And I will tell you this about the fiat piece. The fiat has left the land so quickly that Moors are having to do it anyway. So if you have to do that, if you find yourself in that situation where the ancestors are saying it's time for you to be tested on them contracts, then my suggestion for all Moors would be, go ahead. The fiat is not there anyway, and it never was supposed to be there. So terminate all corporate contracts. Proclaim who you are, first of all. Nationality is the key. It's the order of the day for everything. That's the start. Proclaim your nationality. Do the judicial proclamation. Place them on the public record. The public record, that's any place where where the public can see it. Then terminate all corporate contracts. That's the third thing. It's second if you put name change and judicial proclamation together. But terminate all corporate contracts. Do a lien, Empress, on everybody claiming an interest in that sovereign property. Do a court action to match that lien. So everybody that you lien, you call them into your sovereign court. All Moors are the judges and justices. We all must do court action. And you call them into your court, do the court action on them, give them some commands in that court action that tell them that the property is not theirs, and then do an accept it for value on whatever it is that they say. And accept it for value, we've already shown that about 3 videos back. So it was the beginning of June that we showed how we do accept it for value by using our credit that's already on the public record. Our credit is on the public record. So you take whatever those debtors who that you liened are saying about that. If they're saying that it's, 10,000 quote unquote dollars, then you say accept it for credit, 10,000 gold back sovereign dollarium on the public record, and do it that way. Now go back and look at the video. Let me see what the name of the video is, where we did that accept it for value piece. It hadn't been too long ago. It was about 3 videos ago. I want to just make sure that that we show you what that is. It's called Affidavit for Credit Accepted for Value. It was done 1 week ago, which would be somewhere around June the 13th or 12th, somewhere around there, 2021 on the Greco-Roman calendar, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar. Go back and look at that video so that you can see how we did accept it for value. We showed you the affidavit and how to use the credit that's on the public record for the Moors already so that you can do it. And then be prepared, Empress, and you do have to, again, take all of those fraudulent things off and use your moorishe tag. Take all that fraudulent stuff off. Use the moorishe tag. Okay. Take the VIN number off and put a sovereign VIN number in red on there. And the sovereign VIN number looks just like the other one, except it's in red and all lowercase letters. Okay? And again, make sure that you keep the contract terminated. The benefit, which is the property, belongs to you anyway. It's the contract that we must render to Caesar. Because, see, we got to render to Caesar either the contract or the fiat, which is still the contract. But that's fraud for us because we're not Caesars. We don't belong to Caesar. You see what I'm saying?
So
we are our own.
So I take their VIN number off and use the same VIN number in red, all lowercase. Yes,
Empress. And that's for everything that they have issued with regard to the conveyance. Everything that they've issued, you issue a sovereign affidavit that says all the same things, but it's in red and all lowercase letters.
Islam. Thank you.
Islam. And to cover the contract that you terminated, you do the accepted for value. And then when you do it, don't wait until they pull you over to notify them that that has taken place. You notify. And then be prepared to stand on your demonstration.
Islam.
Be prepared to stand, everyone, all Moors, on the demonstrations that you're doing. When you give notice, be prepared. And all Moors will be tested. Some Moors are saying you can think your way out of testing. No, you actually have to. You will be tested because that's why we're here. And another reason is because the Holy Quran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science says you're going to be tested. Okay, it says that in chapter 1, and we'll read that just shortly. Go ahead, Justice Yermo.
Just want to point out that if Moors, and I'm going to assume that everyone who's on here talking has national rights. If you have and you had your paperwork, you should take your 8-page sheets of paper, which is lawful notice, name, declaration, correction, proclamation, and publication. Go to page 4, and if you have problems with traffic, because they're doing trafficking, remember, that's why it's called traffic. But if you have problems with operating your automobile or your transportation or your business transportation, if you know page 4, you have more than enough to feel confident when you speak about it, and you'll know it because you've studied it and studied its relation to self. Because that's all you can do. Once you know it, and then you be what you know. And that's what I do. And they don't even bother stopping me anymore. The last time I was stopped was about 3.5 years ago. Nobody stops me, and they'll follow. And again, I have not operated a transportation with anything but the Moorish American plate on it. I did it with the Washita for 2.5 years, and now for another 3 years with the Moorish American Consulate and the Moorish American Federal Government, National Federal Government, Federal National, whatever. Okay, but yes, you get confidence in yourself, okay, because the paper won't actually make you anything except knowledgeable as you study it. And when you study it and you know it, you start exuding that confidence that surrounds you, then your transportation, and then everybody else in that area that you're operating, that you'll find that not only do they not stop you, they won't bother with the other people around you. You know, so just a little bit of study, and the fear goes away, and with the fear gone comes the knowing.
Thank you.
So our prophet said this. He told us, and the Circle 7 says it. And see, the Circle 7, let's just put it out there. The Circle 7 and the writings that our prophet put in here, they come from ancient records. They come from our ancient ancestral records. It says, chapter 1, a little further down, says, without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength. And thought must be developed by the exercise of strength. And so this carnal nature soon became a foe that man must fight, that he might be the strength of Allah made manifest. The only way you become the strength of Allah made manifest is to be tested and to be proven to be the strength of Allah. Through testing. The things we've been doing. It may take for some going to a POW camp and seeing what's going on and testing out of there. Our prophet did. He went in to the POW camp. Yeshua went into the POW camp. They tested. Anyone who's ever made a difference has been tested that way. So don't let anybody cast any spells of witchery on you about that. Testing is testing. It just is what it is. So you test out of that. Test out. And it says here, Islam. Go ahead, Empress.
Oh, I wasn't going to say anything. I was just confirming.
Oh, yes. It says let everything, every living. Well, here's the thing, Empress, about that piece. Before I go any further with the reading, there are people who aren't doing anything that's ending up in there. They're not doing anything. They were just minding their business, so they thought. But were fast asleep, and the ancestors need them to come on out of that system and wake up so that they can assist in governing the vast estate. There's some things we needed to know about that system where we had to actually go in But we had to go in first just to see what was going on in there so we could come out with some remedy.
All right.
We needed to go in and try what it is we learned. And we weren't trying it, we just did it. Because we're not going back. We know that. We know we're not citizens, can't ever be citizens. So some are called to do that type of lab work, because that's what I call it, lab work. It's lab work. It's courtroom work. It's ministry. Some are called to do that. Others are not. They're called to do the lab work in other areas of science. Either way, no matter what, we're not afraid. We just, because there is no back as far as we're concerned besides our ancestors being there and we looking at them and seeing what they did. Other than that, that's the only, we know about ancient times, but ain't no looking back and thinking something is happening back there. Back in corporate land. It says, let every living thing stand still and hear. Man is the Lord of all the plane of manifest, or protoplast, of mineral, of plant, of beast. But he given up his birthright just to gratify his lower self. Now, I saw that and I thought, okay, how do we fix that big blunder? Giving up his birthright just to gratify his lower self? Really? Well, what's gratifying of the lower self? For some, it's conveyances that don't, that's a bowl of porridge compared to the whole vast estate. For others, it's, domiciles that they're feeling like they don't want to, quote unquote, lose, but they don't know that there's a difference between the conveyances and domiciles, which are their property, and any other benefit which is theirs, rightfully theirs, and the contracts attached to the black name. The black name. Yes, Justice Amos, it's the ego. The ego wants to have all of that stuff. And the thing is, it's all ours anyway. But the ancestor said, he that seeks to save his life shall lose it. He that lays down his life shall save it. And shall inherit the earth. Well, what are we talking about laying down lives here? All we're talking about is denationalizing ourselves or not. Because that's death.
Islam.
To lie in commerce is death. Islam, Justice Amos.
Islam. Hey, y'all pardon me, there's a lot of y'all here today. But my last demonstration, what I learned from it is that well, I'm gonna just say this for me. What I learned from it is that I have to start trusting the divine, the divinity in this movement, the laws that we're standing on, the laws that our ancestors brought forth. So if you're in a situation where you get pulled over by the police or policy enforcers, first and foremost, stay calm. Keep your cool, stay calm, and pull over someplace where it's public, highly lit, lots of cameras, if you can. But keep your cool, stand on the law that our ancestors built. Because we got to start tapping more into the divinity of this movement. The more of us tap into the divinity within this movement, the easier it'd be for everybody.
Yes.
Islam, I yield.
Islam.
Islam, just a little addendum to what the more just said, that don't just pull over anywhere, and if you have to go a mile to find a well-lighted place where people are, just slowly keep going at whatever speed you're driving or operating. Don't let them bother you, because if you stop immediately, okay, jurisdiction, they put their light on, they scare the heck out of you, now you're trying to figure out how to come out of it. No, just keep going till you find a place that you know they can't do things in secret to you, and then stop. Are you?
Islam. We want to take the spook out of it. We want to take the spook out of it because it's been spooky for a long time. The best way to take the spook out of it is to put some light on it and talk about it and then strategize. Those are good strategies. So now,
Islam, Empress.
Islam.
None obey.
State your information. Oh, Islam.
None obey. Having worked in this profession that we're talking about, if I give a little information about that, it's a traffic camera that you can purchase for your vehicle. It's about 21 bucks when I purchased the one that I have. Excuse me. And it'll pick up traffic front and back. If I was, which I have one in my vehicle myself, I would purchase one of those and just place it there. And when you cut that on, the person behind you can see that a mile away because it picks up if it's night. And that gives basically notice to the would-be officer going to pull you over that, hey, I'm going to be recorded. And that's a good tool, and it gives yourself a little bit more confidence because you feel like somebody else is watching besides just me and this person finna pull me over. But it still happens, but the point of it is that if they were going to make some shortcuts, that camera makes them forget about that and try to come correct on everything or just keep on going. Like about 5 of them coming down the road and seeing my vehicle in the left lane. Normally people pull over to the right lane. Had the moorishe tag on it, and all 5 of them went around in the right lane and kept going. But the camera was on too, so it's a good deterrent in that vein, and it also kind of gives you a little bit more confidence about it's not just me and my word against him. I have some video, and it's not very expensive. But anyway, I just wanted to share that. That's a little bit of insight on it. Islam.
That's another approach that you can take. A tool that you can use.
Where do you get the camera at?
That information you can share that information offline. We don't want to endorse any camera companies or anything like that, but we prefer that be done offline. So if you want to exchange information, you can exchange emails or something like that. Or Justice Nana, you can text the information to me and I'll text it to whomever.
Islam, I'll get the name of that company and put it in the chat.
Islam. And the reason we don't want to do that is because the Moors are in business as well. We don't ever want to endorse someone who's not the Moors.
Islam, it's just a temporary fix for those like you were talking about being uncomfortable worrying about something like that. Gives you a little edge on it. That's all. That's why.
Islam, Islam nobility.
Islam.
It'll make you feel like you have an edge. It will do that. At some point, we're going to, and this is just, yes, we're here where you all are, where we're talking about right now. This that we're talking about, this is our nation. This is where we are. But where we're going is we're superseding the thoughts that would even attract them by being proactive in all that we do with our documents and our demonstrations. I will say this about what Justice Theodore, you want to talk about that? That's another something that can be used.
Islam,
Even
Empress.
though,
Islam.
go ahead, Novus.
Yes, I wanted to remind everybody, you know, we had that questionnaire to hand to the public servants, and usually, you know, they'll back off because they don't want to fill that out and have it on the public record anyway. But what I did, I folded mine in half, and I did a blank letterhead on the outside. So when I hand it to them, they're going to see that, you know, Moorish American Consulate right there. And then open it up and fill it out, you know. But mostly that's a deterrent. I yield. Islam.
And that's also a part of the proactive strategy, that you can send that once you've done a court action and a lien on them and remove that corporate covering that they were previously acting under. Then proactively, before they ever decide to pull over and all of that, send that to them, along with the results of the court action and the lien and all of that. Send that to them. So that's another something that you can use. I have determined, and this is just where I am, there are some Moors who decided this years ago, and some, I'm here at this point in this time, in this age that we're in, where I'm not spending any fiat at all, because I don't have fiat, on things to try and deter and block, you know, I'm not going to order anything from Amazon to help, you know, fight them off and all of that. I'm not doing any of that. Nope. We are no longer in defensive mode. Many of us are no longer in defensive mode. And the reason many of us are no longer in defensive mode is because when we said that we were terminating those corporate contracts, we meant it. And we were never going back. Not to say that anyone else hasn't, but I'm just saying that they don't deserve me, you know, some corpses because they're dead. We just raise them from the dead. And when we raise them from the dead, do we need to get armored vehicles, armored conveyances? No. We haven't had them anyway, and most Moors can't afford that with the amount of fiat that they were using previously. So we need to take another route. That other route is terminate the corporate contracts and keep them terminated, and then do everything in red and all lowercase letters and rebut all the madness and notify, and then be yourself, no matter what they say or do. Be yourself.
Islam?
Because, yes, nobility, I like what you put in the chat. He said we are in interloper corrective mode now. Islam.
And people just need to remember that notifying is not the same as registering or filing. We're
Correct.
notifying, we're not asking for any permission. Never ask for permission. Never. Even if you're scared, don't ask for permission. Do like when you didn't want to do something at home when you were told to do it and you were determined not to do it. You're home.
Yes. Yes.
Islam.
Yes. Remember that, Moors? We on our own land, and we sitting up, you know, wearing bulletproof vests and hiding behind this and that. No. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're free on our own land. We're free on our own land. I'm going to put a question up here because I wanted us to do like a multiple choice of what you would do, because these are some of the things I've been hearing, etc. So it says here, question number 1, what should you do if you're stopped by a policy enforcer? And then you just pick 1 or 2 of these, or however many, that you think might be the right answer. A, give them your license and registration. Is that the correct answer?
That's a loaded.
B is say nothing, because anything you say will be used against you. That's the B option for this particular question right here. C is sovereign, ancient, Article 3, consular court action on the spot in alignment with the treaty. Or D, run away. Which do you choose? What should you do if you're stopped by a policy enforcer?
C.
I'm seeing a lot of C and hearing C.
C.
There you go.
If I could expand why I say C, it's because the consular court is, in fact, can be as short as 10 to 15 words in a sentence, because Empress Light has really dolled it up and thickened it up and she likes to put a lot of pretty words in it. But it can be short and direct so you can remember, okay? And that is all rise and stand. And remain standing. And when you say that, then you identify who they're talking to, which is you. And in propria persona juris, in proprio solo, that's good enough. They're already scared because they new persona. Now they're going solo, and so you do that, and then you stand in who you are because you know who you are. No one can tell you who you are but you. I yield.
Islam, Justice Osafa, Justice Onana. I see what you said, and I get it. So, Justice Jeremiah, I'm going to respectfully state otherwise, as you know, because I only because I did it by experience on the spot, and it saved my rear end. That's why I'm saying what I'm saying. I'm not saying it just because. I'm saying it because that's what worked. And then Justice Amos did a court action before his camera started running. Is that correct, Justice Amos?
Yes.
On that demonstration from the last video. Go ahead, Nobility.
Yeah, I was agreeing. Yeah, that is correct.
Yes.
I did a court action.
So, yeah. So,
Empress Light, I was not.
These are things that we're doing. I know, Justice Guillermo. You know me. You know me. You know I have to clarify.
Yes.
It's kind of like the tarot card reader. She pulls out a card and she says, "Oh, let's clarify that." So I like to clarify that, in my experience, it takes that bullet accurate. Just one moment. There's a little bit of noise coming from somewhere. From my experience, and this is not even just one experience. This has been day in and day out. I'm telling you, day in and day out, because we're constantly doing court action. And now I feel comfortable picking up the phone and calling someone who's acting in a corporate status, because I'll pick up the phone, and I've only done this one time. But it worked then to the point where I spent the day laughing, like belly laughing, because it was like, they cannot do anything with those court actions because that's treaty right there. And even though they're not a party, corpses and subjects are not party to the treaty in terms of sitting at the table, being equals, and signing it. That's why that's not how that works. Just so everyone is aware, the subjects and they are not a part of the treaty that way. to where their autograph was needed or their signature was needed. We didn't need it. That's why you don't see no treaty with everyone signing it, etc. You haven't seen that. So I've used the court actions, and other Moors have used the court actions. Empress, are you here? I think I saw something in the chat. Tell them just quickly how you used the court action and what happened when you first learned about the court action. Let me make sure that she is, because I think we right at her time as well, and I want to yield the floor in a timely manner. Let me just make sure I can. But so again, the court action, that is not something that we're saying and have not used, and it has not one time has the court action failed me. Not one time. When we say all rise and stand, this is a sovereign, original, indigenous, ancient, Al-Moroccan Article 3, Moorish American Consular Court Act. And then I am sovereign, living justice, etc. In capitis, and Justice Dearmore, this is where we need to say in capitis diminutio nolo, so that they know, because see, they've been trying to keep people in black ink and capital letters. We need to say in capitis diminutio nolo, in red ink, in proprio persona juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredity. Don't let anybody tell y'all that we don't need to say that. We do need to say it. That's just from me to you, just because of experience. And then I'm watching the Moors do it, and they keep winning. Because they keep saying, we're not a part of your capitalist system as remedy to being pulled over. Because that's what we're talking about here. Everybody says C is correct. And that's whether you have a camera in your conveyance or not. That's whether you have Moorish tags or not, because some Moors haven't gotten that far yet in their walk. Know the court action language and know exactly what it means. And I'll say this, in the court action, you do not, what you don't have to say to them is, do you understand that you are hereby bound by the Treaty for Peace and Friendship? Because I meant to tell you all this. I may have mentioned it before, but I meant to tell you all this too in my experience, that every time I would say, do you understand that you are hereby bound by the Constitution for the United States, 1789, 1791, they always said yes. But then they always said no when I said the treaty. But that's because in subject status, they know they're not party to the treaty. The treaty is for the nations and the citizens of the nation. So that's a citizen subject they don't need to have their autograph on a treaty that nations have done. If you're a subject in someone's nation, you just do what you're told, what the government tells you to do, what you're commanded to do by the government. You don't need a treaty for that, because you know your role on the land of that sovereign nation. They know that it's the Constitution. That's why our prophet said what he said about the Constitution. So I had to ask them, do you understand, one other time, to just fill in that space. Either way, they still always do exactly as commanded when we tell them that. I called somebody the other day just to ask them about, because we're looking at different ways to for the future to do the delarium, to tribute the delarium. We're going to tribute, speaking of delarium, we are going to tribute the delarium in the coming weeks. We're doing, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I called someone to ask them to find out some information about what they offer. And as we know, when we're doing our court actions, we are the ones asking the question. Okay? So I called and, you know, someone answered the phone as if they knew I was going to do what I did. They were hesitant. They answered the phone, and I said,
what's the definition of mass confusion? Father.
All rise and stand. All rise and stand. This is a sovereign, original, indigenous, ancient, natural, divine, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American consular court action. And, you know, I went through and said what we normally say. And when I did, I said, do you understand that you are hereby bound by the Treaty for Peace and Friendship, the Constitution for the United States, 1789 and 1791? And she said yes. So then I said, she started to ask me a question. That was the first thing she went for, is to ask a question. I said, we don't ask questions. We don't answer questions. I said, we don't answer questions. And do you know that for the rest of the conversation, she gave me all the information that I needed. And I said to her, when I said we don't answer questions, I told her that any questions that you have will be answered in the affidavit that you receive from us. And she was like, phew. And she purposefully went about in the conversation avoiding answering questions. She would start in on a question and then she would rephrase it and make it into a statement and say, this is what we're doing here, this is what we're doing, instead of saying, well, what is it that you're looking for and all of that. No, because that indicates that we need them. It's not that way around. They've been getting sandwiches from us. So that's why when you're pulled over, you don't answer questions by policy enforcers. You just tell them. Do the court action. And when they start to ask questions and talk about, we don't really care about that and da-da-da-da, because, you know, when I was in the POW camp, they were just running. Some of them were running their mouths during the thing. Others were quiet. Others answered the questions like they were supposed to. Either way, we still finish the whole court action and then shut it down. So when they come, you just do your court action, ask your questions of them, and whether they answer the questions or not, that's all you need to do. And say, this sovereign justice stands as law, and that's it. That's it. Because anyone who is pretending to follow the Constitution, anyone who is attempting to follow the Constitution is going to hear what you have to say, and they're gonna walk away and not say anything further, because they know that you just invoked the Constitution. So they're not going to challenge that. That is why we just do a court action and leave it at that. Are they going to try and bait you into a conversation? Of course, usually. You don't have to answer. You do another, just do another. If you feel like you have to say anything, just do another court action, same court action repeatedly. Same court action. That's what you do. Just like Justice Amos did the other day, do a court action. You know, I'll say this, the things that they do say are things that appeal to the programming and that are programming triggers that will get you talking again if you don't stay with what you're there to do, which is the court action. There are some things put in the programming that they attempt to appeal to or speak to in order to trigger a reaction from you that is outside of your nobility. Just know that going in. So we're letting you know now. Sometimes some of the triggers to the programming are the following. Let me just tell you some of the triggers. If you don't answer, you go into jail. And then they'll just stand there hoping that you start vomiting up a bunch of random answers instead of a court action. But once you do the court action, you don't have to say another word. Now, I'll say this about that remedy and about all remedies. It is the law. It is in alignment with the treaty. But if you're out there selling drugs and then you try to get out of it by doing a court action, you're going to go to jail, even though you did a court action. Got it? I'm just telling you. It's the truth. Because our ancestors, they know the difference. The ancestors know the difference. Or, if you're operating at war, if you're out there warring, now we've seen it. If you're warring or your ego is so huge and unchecked, and you do a court action like someone is obligated, like the ancestors are obligated, the outcome will be the outcome. Because this is ultimately about our energy. Because that's a law that we must follow too. The nobility is not at war. And the nobility does not even need a huge ego. Everything is already ours. We don't even need that. Ego provokes, yes, in the chat, ego provokes arrogance. Not only does it provoke arrogance, but it also brings ego energy or arrogant energy is the natural attractor of that which you do not want. Whatever it is that you have in your mind that you don't want, just keep ego at bay, and it won't come your way. 1,000 will fall at your right hand, and 10,000 at your word, and none of it will come nigh you. None will come nigh you. In fact, I see you there, Justice Frank. I'm going to go ahead and take these other ones out. And leave the correct one. Islam? Yes, Islam Empress.
If you're out there trying to sell drugs, that means you're out trying to acquire their instruments. And that would put you into their jurisdiction. Islam.
Yes. Very simple. Very simple, Empress. Break it down. Break it down. Yes.
Beautiful.
That means you loving their stuff and ain't trying to terminate no corporate contract. There you have it. She just pointed that out. That's the law. That's the law. Islam.
I have a question. What is considered selling drugs? I don't use them or whatever, but I do want to know what is considered selling drugs. See, we have to be a little careful there, because herbs, they will call herbs drugs. And many of the Moors, they put together condiments and things and sell it to each other. And some of these goofy guys who don't want competition would think that they're the only ones who should sell any of that stuff. You know, so that's why I asked, what is considered selling drugs? Because many of the Moors who were abducted and imprisoned were attempting to do some type of way to get some honest exchange. And they are, because of that, given from 20 to 70 years. One of my young Moors, 20, not even 22, is, and they just nationalized, but they're facing if they go to a court, up to a 70-year sentence.
Okay, so
last time I knew, you know, the hemp or marijuana was not a drug that was prohibited from us, because we, the people, always used it. I never did. I couldn't figure why the hell people do, but you know, I have no problem with people using it, as long as they're not sticking it in my nose, because I choke quite easily with the smoke from it. So, but you know, these are the kind of things that we should question what we're saying, what it is we're saying, because there's nothing unlawful about that. It's a mindset maybe that needs to be fixed about why it's being used or what's being done with it. But I yield.
Well, Justice Jill, I have a question for you about that. If they're dealing in fiat, what does that mean?
Well, if you're dealing with fiat, you're correct. But they could be exchanging it for some other thing. And
does that make it unlawful? That's my question. Does that make it unlawful if they're doing it with fiat?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So where we are right now in all of this is that everything has to come to has to grind to a halt, so that when it starts back up again, it starts up in the favor of the Moors. The Moors have to do that. We have to just hold off. Everybody's gonna eat because the land is still here. The food ain't going nowhere. The land ain't going nowhere. There's food all over this land. Nobody's gonna starve if we hold off on a minute on the commerce and start using our own money. Moorish sovereign dollarium, gold, U.S. dollars, gold and silver. As generated by the Moors. And see, even with the gold and silver piece, there's a huge difference between going out onto the land and finding gold and silver from your vast estate. That's different from buying gold and silver from others and then turning around and selling it again. That's different. But again, we're in transition. many mixes of those things are being done, and that's where we are as a nation. But we have to be moving away from everything that's not lawful where commerce is concerned. We can't be stocking up so that we can continue to do commerce using fiat. One of the Moors sent me a text message just this week about how she went to Walmart trying to pay with fiat. And they were like, no, we don't, you're going to have to go to customer service and see if they can help you over there. And the people over in the customer service were saying, we don't have much of that in the store. People don't hardly use that. And they sitting up there telling the Moors that. Come on, Moors. We're the ones who told them to get that trash off of our land. We've replaced it. Gold-backed liens. Everything that we do is about gold. Now, let me just tell you this about, because people keep saying, well, where's the gold? Y'all don't know where the gold is. What you backing it with? Let me tell you a little story. And today, I think we're probably going to go on until Wednesday or maybe Sunday, because I don't know if she's on now, if she's made it back or not. I know that they were enjoying, she was spending some time with her. Okay, there you go. Okay. So, because on the hour, I was trying to see if you were here and we didn't hear. But let me just tell you a little 2-minute story about the fiat piece to show you what backs it, really. In the 60s, we had come to this same point, and when I say we, I don't mean we, I mean the corporation had came to the same point where they were running out of options because something was going on, and all of the Moors had ascribed to the civil rights piece. Most of the Moors had ascribed to the civil rights piece. So they were saying, what are we going to do? They all think they're citizens. What do we do? So the Bank of International Settlement, the IMF, and the ones that were doing business as Jews here on our land got together and said, okay, we're going to have to create a reason to get all of their buy-in back into the system. And we have to do it with their consent by signature. They're all asleep, most of them. Not all, but most. We need their consent. So what do? Hey, let's kill Martin Luther King. Let's do away with him. And then we'll say, oh, no, he's no longer here. Why don't we do a petition for Martin Luther King holiday? That way we'll get all of their signatures again. And so guess what happened? 68, 69, 70. Millions of Moors consented to sign their corporate petition in black, using capital letters, at least one capital letter, at the beginning of each of those corporate names. They got all the signatures that they wanted, that they needed. And then what did they do? After they got all the signatures, 1971 hit, and the one doing business as Nixon said, hey, we don't even need a gold standard because we got the signatures of all those sleeping Moors over there. So let's just tell the rest of the world we're not giving you any gold back. We're keeping all of it. We're not going to give you any of it back. Why? Because we got the real gold right here. They're living and breathing and signing our stuff. We don't need a gold, that's what they were saying, the corporates. We don't need a gold standard. All these sleeping Moors believe in us. That's what they said. That's what the corpses said. That they sent all of their sovereign signatures all the way to D.C. saying, we need, write your congressman, quote unquote. And the sleeping Moors did what? Signed and wrote and petitioned and went out there and did the legwork for the corporation. Don't sign their petitions. Don't sign their documents. Don't sign their paperwork. Don't fill out their forms. That's consent. That, yes, they sure did. They said, okay, well, we got all the Moors. Now, to all of those other nations that we made contracts with, we're going to give you all the middle finger, and we're keeping all the gold. And not only are we keeping the gold, but we're taking any semblance of any belief that the gold was tied to the U.S. dollar, and we're going to put it on these signatures right here that we got from the heirs, saying that we're the government and they're not. And we can act like them. And then a whole bunch of other stuff started happening, and the hybrids had a love fest at, what you call that place? Wherever they had this big love fest. Everybody was in love then. And then the jailing started on a massive level, and they got ready. Woodstock, that's it. Yeah. Oh, it was love then. All love. We're all in love with one another. Let's just love and peace, man. And then the jailing of the Moors began en masse. Yes, and high on drugs. And then the jailing of the Moors started. And they started gearing up for the military-industrial complex. And they started building more prisons than they were building schools, etc. They were like, we don't even need the schools now. We got those signatures. And we done told the rest of those nations, y'all can't touch us because we got these sleeping heirs over here in contract.
Actually,
that's what they said. That's what they did.
Actually, as human shields. That's why.
Oh, yes.
That's why they were happy to bomb and kill and go murder everywhere.
Yes.
Because they know we would never be attacked here.
Well,
about what you were saying, though, Juneteenth is the same thing. Guess what? I was doing a search on battles and battles this morning. I come up with Custer's last stand is June 26th and 27th, 1876.
Yeah.
So now on June 19th or 20th, we suddenly get Juneteenth as a national holiday. So Black lives do matter.
Well, we don't have Juneteenth as a national holiday. It's Juneteenth in red and all lowercase letters, though. For us, that's national holiday.
But this is what the sleepers buy. They were celebrating all over the place. And of course, in the middle of all that, this yesterday, 8 teenage girls in one vehicle and one teenager and their father and mother got killed in Alabama, they say, in a head-to-head vehicle accident. I wonder who those teenage girls are. And they show the vehicles burning and stuff on the road. Sacrifice. That's what's going on there.
You know what? You know what? We rebut all that they do. We rebut all of that. So here's the thing. Because, see, they would love for us to keep our attention focused on their fake butts, but we're not going to do it. We're going to stay focused on this nation building right here. Because we already saw what they did. Their spells don't work anymore. It's a wrap on those because we can see. So now, they disconnected supposedly anything from the gold standard in 71 after they got all that consent from the heirs. And they told the other nations, screw you. We can treat them however we want to treat them because they're asleep. And they still think we're the government instead of them being the government. We will never go there again, Morris. Never go there again. Never. It's too late anyway. So we can't go there. So now, where are we? And what are we doing? Where are we and what are we doing? Now they're getting to the point, the fakeness has fallen, okay? And now it's about the money system. And when I say money system, I'm talking about ours because we're the only money system there is. Anything else is corporate. The Moors have the only money system. We're getting ready to, and I said I was going to talk about this a little further. The Al-Moroccan American Exchange, let me just say this about that, Moors. I am just amazed at how many Moors have put their full faith and credit in themselves. We're into the trillions of gold Moorish sovereign dollarium on revenue for the Al-Moroccan American Exchange, into the trillions, Because the Moors have said, I'd rather put everything I have in my own nation than go back to that mess, that corporate mess there. That's why you're seeing the changes that you're seeing. Because we've all decided that we are the change. So now that we're putting our sovereign autograph on Moorish sovereign dollarium, because that's what we do. When you receive your Moorish sovereign dollarium, go ahead and start autographing what it is that you need in red and all lowercase letters with your right red thumbprint. And then when you do that with your Moorish sovereign dollarium, anybody that is saying that you're supposed to have this amount or that amount, you're already going to, number one, accept it for value and say, well, the public record says that it's worth this much. We will accept that value and use our credit, because that's really our credit. So we're going to go ahead and use it by accepting for value that service or subject or property. So it's almost like the hybrids were holding something and they were saying, oh, you know, it's not that they own anything, they don't. But it's like a custodian holding up something and saying, oh, we think that, you know, this domicile is worth $450,000 USD. And then the Moors rip that corporate covering off and say, I think we will use our credit and accept that value that you put on it, except it's in gold. Moorish sovereign dollarium. Or gold USD, United States dollars. And when I say United States dollars, it's in red and all lowercase letters. So is everything else we do. We'll accept that value since the custodian just looked at it and said, oh, we think it's this. Okay, we'll accept that value. We'll use our credit and put it on there. And we'll take that. Not only then do you do that, but then you go about creating the documents that rebut all of the documents that they put on that piece of property. For example, with our building down the street, which we're just so excited about because we see the ancestors unfolding the whole thing. There is a document that was that we need to put on the record that says, and we're just watching because we're being taught how to govern. There's a document that says, it's in the corporate, it would have said, do not trespass. But for us, we say it a different way completely, because we speak in the positive. Everything that we do, we speak in the positive. We don't have to say do not trespass. We don't have to say that. We can say all are welcome with approval of the government. And we can put that in French and put the sign up on the property. Because we don't have to be like them. In fact, we're rebutting everything they say. And since we're rebutting everything they say, we can rebut the negative, quote-unquote, law that they were supposed to be putting out there, with speaking the same thing but in the positive, and then put it in our ancient English and put it up there. In the corporate, they call the document that we're putting on the public record a business trespass authorization. Isn't that a funny name? A business trespass authorization? That means that you're giving a business authorization to trespass on your land. See, they real cute with it. What's the title of the document? Well, we don't give any business authorization to trespass on our land. So we're going to rebut that in red and all lowercase letters. And we're just watching what happens, trying to see what's happening, and then rebutting as we should, and then proactively doing what we need to do, preparing to do inspection on the building, etc. And we're going to do it when the ancestors say, okay. And right now we're getting all of the information where proper, competent inspections and things like that are concerned. Okay. Empress today, I was just about to ask you, Empress today is going to go over an appraisal, a true sovereign appraisal for the property. Do we want to hold that for next week on Sunday, or do we want to go ahead, because today was a little bit, just because of Father's Day and all, do we want to continue on and do that today, or do we want to do it next week on Sunday? Morris, what do you think?
Next week on Sunday. Cynthia and Bay.
Islam, done. Next week, Islam, Justice Theodore, Empress today, yes. Okay, we'll do it next week. And that way, you know, everyone can spend more time with their fathers and consorts and etc. today, whom we honor greatly. With that being said, are there any other questions, comments, any other input? I had another question, but we'll even do that at another time.
Islam?
Any other questions? Islam, Empress.
I don't have a question, but do you want me to tell that story that we talked about, or you want to hold that one off for another time too?
You know what? Go ahead, Empress. We're at let me see, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we got a little time for that. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna try to make it quick because you know I told you the long story. I got to break it down to the short version for everybody else. Basically, I told the story before about when I was going through foreclosure with a property. It was a domicile. It was in my mom's appellation, and we struggled with this property for 8 years. In the very beginning, I didn't know all the stuff that I knew towards the end of that case that they had. Okay, so I struggled with attorneys turning us over to the court, because that's all they did was turn us over and did not help out. And then I had a lot of little paralegals and also people that were trying to do private, do their private demonstrations, which worked sometimes, but it didn't work all the way. And that was right before I started learning a lot of the stuff that I was learning through the consulate and all the stuff that you was doing. Your brother did, you know, Sharon Tracy Gale Bay. Then when you came along and started doing your thing, girl. And I'm saying it because it wasn't until I started getting the information from the consulate and started doing things differently, I started noticing the changes. But it was towards the end, like everything kind of already had happened in that case. So I was kind of coming on the back end. Long story short, they had the default judgment. It was through Chase. The Chase did their judicial sale. And now we're fighting that battle, but we're knowing, I'm knowing the information that I've received from the Moors now, okay? So right before I got the information before the Moors, I had spoke to an attorney that was doing a case in New York, because I'm in Illinois, and she wanted us from a class action, because I put everything on the record about that case. And then once I started doing my demonstrations, I started putting all my demonstrations on the record a long time ago, before we even started really putting a lot of stuff on the record. I had I told her I had a website with the address name on there for the property, and I was putting it all out there on the record. So the lady found me and wanted us to be a part of the case. Bottom line, I gave the information. I had all the proof in the world with voice recordings from Fannie Mae saying that they never sold the note to Chase, that Chase was fraud. Everything was over. Chase was fraud. Everybody knew it. Chase was trying to actually settle with us. Really didn't want to give us much, because they were like, I forgot what you said about this, but remember I told you that they told us they didn't want to settle because we were going to lose the property anyway, because we wasn't paying mortgage to somebody. You said something like about the corporations all being together, so it kind of didn't matter. It was something that you said that kind of, I didn't know that back then, but once you said it, it kind of clicked, because I'm like, you know, we had everything. We knew that the judges was getting paid off. Do you remember what you said right quick, just to interject on that?
Yeah, I did. What I said was that the corporations, they pretend like they are different entities, but they're all working together. They're all one, just like the fake judges and the fake attorneys. All one corporation. They're all getting their paycheck from the same place. All of them get their paycheck from the one that was doing business as Queen.
Right. Right, so it didn't matter.
No difference.
So it didn't matter. Didn't matter. So while that was going on in New York, Chase tried to bring us back into Illinois, a case that was closed, bring myself and my mother. Now, mind you, I was not on any of the loan. I was not even on the deed. However, they found a way to put my appellation on their court case, or at least the corporate one, the all-black corporate one, on the court case, trying to bring me into an old case that was closed. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of that before, but that's what they tried to do. And then when they did it, they were trying to say they was going to hold myself and my mother in contempt of court, number one, because we was not letting the sale go through. Because after I started getting all the information and doing the demonstrations through the consulate and all the stuff that I was putting on the record and stuff, a lot of their lenders were seeing that, and no one wanted to have anything to do with that property at all. They couldn't sell it. They were trying to like resell, and it just would not sell because we kept getting in the way. And so no one really wanted to have anything to do with that property. And while they were still trying to continue to keep selling it, because they had many people interested, they just, you know, once they do the research, it wasn't too hard before they figured out and they seen some paperwork with all of our stuff on the record, right? So once that happened, they my mother, she was not awake at the time. She wanted to have an attorney to represent her. She was really scared that she was going to jail because they was talking about locking us up. and paying fines and all type of stuff, just basically because we wouldn't leave this house that they stole alone, okay? They was like, just go away quietly, and that wasn't happening. And I told my mom, I said, I'm not doing it. I'm not getting an attorney. You can have an attorney if you're scared. And she was really scared, and I said, I'm not doing it. Bottom line, I went in, I did all my Moore's paperwork. I turned it in. And my mom was trying to go through attorney. She soon found out that the attorney was not working for her and was working against her. So she found that out later, but in the very beginning, it was a big battle. We was arguing a lot. I just stuck to it. I stood my ground. I said, nope. I put in my Moore's paperwork. And when that judge got that paperwork that I got from the consulate, when she got that paperwork in the Illinois case, she didn't want to have anything to do with the case. She told my mother's attorney, I don't want to have nothing to do with this. Get this out my courtroom. And then Chase had tried to come in at the time and state that in their paperwork, they tried to denationalize us. In their paperwork, submitted to the administrative court hearing, saying that we were not Moors because we did not belong to the Moorish Temple of America in Chicago. And that's the one part that I told Light that really got me. I've never seen any paperwork ever where they actually tried to just denationalize you, like on the spot. And they didn't have any proof. They had any witnesses. They didn't have any appellations of anybody that they spoke with. They just put it on there. Oh, they're not Moors. They're lying. They're saying that they're Moors of the Moorish Temple of America, which I never put in my paperwork that I was a Moor from the Moorish Temple of America. That was not in any of my affidavits. I just said I was a Moorish American national and from more, federal government, and that's all I said. So I never said that in there. But they made sure that they was trying to, just pretty much denationalize us on the spot, and I wasn't having that. So I kept going with my paperwork, and basically in the end they ended up dropping the case, and my mom was actually finally able to see where I was coming from because she seen her attorney kind of going over to their side and looked like he was being paid off, and that was the time where she woke up. She woke up. At that point. She started actually listening and realized what I was saying was true, and all the stuff I was saying was true. And now, for the past few years now, she's been, actively doing her own research and looking and trying to learn this information. But that was her wake up. But we got into it a little bit, and she saw I was going to stand my ground, and her attorney was like, just tell your daughter to stop. Just tell her to take everything down. Just tell her to take all her paperwork off of it. I mean, they just was really trying to get us to stop and me to stop. And I wouldn't. She was like, I can't do nothing. I can't tell her to stop. She's her own, person. She's going to do what she wants to do. She's a grown woman. I can't tell. And because she could not get me to stop, they just let it go. And they couldn't do anything. Yep, and it was over. Yep, I yield.
Islam, let me thank you, Empress. Listen, let me say something about them saying she's not even a member of the Moorish Temple of America in Chicago. Well, and again, let me put this out there. We love the Moorish Temple of America unincorporated. We love them. We love the people who are the 501c3. We love them too, but we can't be no 501c3 with you. So the only reason that they would even put that in paperwork is they're trying to find a contract under the United States Corporation Company. And they know that there is a couple of temples out there, a couple, that are 501c3s under them. And if that be the case, see, that's the beauty of us being de jure. There's still no contract with the United States Corporation Company. We're a part of the Moorish Temple of America, unincorporated, the de jure one, the one that's pure and uncorrupted, because we know that our bodies are that temple. So It's actually an 801c. Just as it's an 801c.
Yeah, they have an 805 also, but I can't remember if 805 or 508, but there's a bunch of them that are hidden someplace else that are operating.
Some of them have one or the other. The 508c is where the ones doing business as fake Jews have been hiding.
Mm-hmm.
All of their little foundations and stuff, and that one is also where the VA medical centers, and the VA is under a 508.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Because you don't have to report where any of the fiat comes from that supports whatever they're doing. They don't have to tell on their...
Yeah, all they have to do is turn in the skin. If you are talking, I think you went up.
Islam. So that's where they've been hiding in their corporate status and capacity. See, they tend to cut us off when we start telling them. That's where the corpses were hiding.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, and we've read the 801 that the prophet did. It's a different registration at Cook County. It's a different one. And then it's prior to the law that, well, they say it's prior to, but the United States Corporation Company incorporated in 1925. Again, after bankruptcy. After bankruptcy, they incorporated again in 1925. So, you know, we're not a part of any court system.
Is it mass confusion at the Moorish American capital today because it's Father's Day?
But we do. Okay, we didn't. Let's see. But we do support and love all Moors. Period. So let's not get those two things mixed up. In any event, innvited, that's, you know, innvited did some powerful work with regard to the domicile that she is referring to. And that's how she learned all of this, was through her testing. And that's why testing is so important for us. We should not shun or try to run from our tests. Let's take them so we can learn what we need to learn and grow. Let's do it. In the chat, are Ashkenazi and Nazi the same people? Let me just say this about that. If it's in black and capital letters, yes. And let me just say this also, and I'll put it in the chat and spell it out. Okay, there it is. Nazi and Nazi are the same. They're the same. Because if you, the word Nazi is a derivative of National Socialist Party, etc. That's some corporate stuff. If you think that you're corporate and you think that you're a party of any kind under the United States Corporation Company, then you can't see. So you're still a Nazi. Nazi. N-O-T space S-E-E. Okay. So with that being said, are there any other questions or comments or wisdom of any kind? Any questions? Islam. With that being said, we will pick back up here. Thank you for the many packets that have come in. We are well into the hundreds on packets. And I thought I was going to get caught up yesterday on all the emails. But the first email I opened, the Moore had chosen almost all 220-something companies to to step up and invest in and be the inheritor along with the rest of us. So that first email that I opened up, I had to work on that one. So that put me, you know, a little bit more behind. But that's okay. We're getting it done anyway. Thank you for those who are honoring that email and only sending things that are relative to the Al-Moroccan American exchange and not sending any emails of any other kind to that email. Thank you for honoring that because we can't, you know, that email is specifically for that. And then we have lightbaynation1@gmail.com. We also have other government emails as well of the other Moors who you can email as well, who are part and parcel of their government, or for their government, rather. With that being said, peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, and indigenous, natural, divine heirs, Islam.
Peace and love, Moore.
Peace and love.
Grand rising, Moors.
Grand rising. Grand rising.
Peace and love.
Islam.
Wow.